and now I get to be a national spokesperson for the Academy. And I feel like that's a really big honor. Again, representation matters. So being an Asian American and doing that it makes me proud to say I have done that, and other kids maybe that look like me can reflect and be like, wow, I could maybe do that too. I could be a dietitian. I can help people. I could talk about it on the radio or on TV or on a podcast.
Do you ever have so many questions and no one to ask, so they're just wasting away on Google searches you'll forget about in an hour or so?
We had that same problem, and that's why we created the RD2BE podcast, a resource for dietetic and nutrition students looking for answers that their peers don't have.
We are students Macy and Emily and registered dietitian Carl Barnes. We engage in conversations and learn from RDs.
Join us weekly as we gain insight into the unique journeys of registered dietitians all over the country.
Welcome back to another week of the RD2BE podcast. I'm your registered dietitian host, Carl Barnes. This is our weekly podcast where we sit down with a different awesome registered dietitian to showcase the diversity of opportunity in the profession, really show how many tremendous different pathways you can take to being a registered dietitian and the different cool opportunities while you're a practitioner. Really excited to be sitting down with Grace Derocha today, registered dietitian, nutritionist, and national spokesperson for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Thanks so much for being here. Looking forward to hearing about your path and sharing with our student audience.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like it's such an honor and pleasure to get to share some of my experiences that will hopefully be helpful, and always open to being a lifelong learner in the process too, because I feel like I'm going to be able to learn from you and Emily as we have this discussion. My name is Grace Derocha, like Carl said. I am a registered dietitian. I am based in Michigan, and I went to Michigan State, go green. I have a couple degrees. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more. One in dietetics and one in psychology. And then I have my MBA as well, which is a fun little bonus. Always learning, right? And I feel like I love all of the resume, like education, CV stuff. But then I also like to share that I am a wife and I am a mom. I'm a dog mom. I'm a lover of food and dancing. I love music, smiling, friends, cooking, but not the cleaning part.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us today. So why did you decide to do both undergrad and graduate school at Michigan?
When I saw that question, I was like, this is a really good question. Part of it is because I wanted to be closer to my to stay close to my family, because I was born and raised in Michigan. And the other part, this is getting super real, and I am not happy about this decision. At the time, I was dating someone, and he was in law school, and so I decided to also stay in Michigan and be closer to him. I didn't end up marrying him. I married someone else. So that's why I kind of regret, because I had other opportunities to travel. So being super real with you guys, if you get a chance to do an internship somewhere else, go.
Great piece of advice. So what advantages do you think having a psychology degree carries with also having a didactic degree?
I think so many. So obviously, as a dietitian, we're in the practice of helping people, helping them make lifestyle changes that will continue to nourish their body for the long haul. Well, when we're talking about nutrition and we're talking about lifestyle changes, that is not just a physical thing that we do. It is also a mental thing, and trying to meet the person where they're at and tapping into what drives them, how they got there. Is it traditions? Is it cultural beliefs? Is it the way they were raised? And just tapping into that really helps with that psychology background to kind of realize this is where my patient, member, client, whatever word you want to use, is at, and this is how I could best hopefully help and serve them.
Of course. So in addition to your RDN and your MBA, you also have a CDCES, CWC, and a CIMHP. A lot of letters. Would you mind talking about what those are?
Yeah. So I feel like I've said this a few times. few times, like as a dietitian, we're always learning, right? Because there's new research, there's new science, so you're always trying to soak it in. So I feel like that is definitely at the core of part of who I am. So it's funny because they changed the letter. So CDCES is now Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist. It used to just be CDE. So that means that I just have more knowledge and practice working with people that have diabetes, which is also very interesting. What else? Oh, I like to call it the CHIMP, but it's really CMHIMP, the Certified Mental Health Integrative Medical Provider certification. So again, kind of tying the psychology and looking at the way of the world and how it's been moving, focusing on well-being and mental health. I did think it was important to be able to tap in to kind of learn more and help people along their path nourish their body as a dietitian, but figure out where were they with their well-being as well. What else was on there? Oh, and so yeah, currently I am sitting for my exam actually in October for the National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach certification. So it's funny. So I keep joking around that I'm a little bit older. I'm going to be 45 soon. So as you've practiced as a dietitian for a while, you start to realize that there is a lot of things that people know, right? There's a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of things that they can look up. And so there's a lot of knowing, but then the doing part becomes the harder part, right? The application, going through the process, figuring it out. And with health coaching, and we learn this in school, right? Motivational interviewing and doing all that, but then just this piggyback of this certification. And now that you can actually charge for that. I don't know if you guys know that, like it is a chargeable thing, like health coaching. So you have to have one of these national board certifications to do that. But I think tapping into that has really helped me with all of my patients.
Great. So I know you also work at Marquee Health. So how did you start your role there?
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm newer to that company. I started in July of 2021. What year is it? And I always liked coaching. They do a lot of workplace wellness coaching is where our clients and members come from. And I did know that they would help with the NBC HWC certification. And I knew that I wanted, over this pandemic and COVID times, being a mom, I wanted to be able to work from home. So kind of all of those things aligned and came into play. And I love it. I've come back a little bit more into like the actual one-on-one coaching in that role. And I miss some of that. I always miss that whenever I go into something else. I always miss that time, like working with someone and watching them accomplish their health goals.
So going into your previous roles a little bit at like St. John's and large insurance companies, what did you do in those roles?
Yeah, so at St. John, it was awesome. I was a pediatric dietitian and I worked as an outpatient pediatric dietitian, but I had got to work with all the specialists. So from everyone to the gastroenterologist, the endocrinologist, the neurologist, the cardiologist, along with just the general pediatricians. So I saw a lot. Pediatrics is a toughie, man. I will tell you, because from newborn till you're essentially an adult. So the breadth of things that you saw, and talk about tapping into the psychology of families. Woo! Super interesting place to be. Always learning there for sure. You know, you're talking about everything, again, from formula to like picky eaters to type 1 diabetics. So definitely I loved it. It was a very hard, awesome learning experience. And I learned so much. And I still talk to almost all those doctors that I worked with. They were so great and really believed in what the dietitian brought to the table.
I'm sure you don't really understand. I mean, I understand what pediatrics is, but hearing you say from birth to 18, that's a big range. You don't, like, there's so many monumental changes and just foundational just like, walking, crawling,
Yeah.
like just so many pivotal moments in that time period. You don't really think about it.
Yeah.
So I also knew you were a traveling dietitian. So what did that look like? How did you get into that?
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of doing one traveling dietitian experience. And I have to thank my sister because it was in Hawaii, you guys. So I lived in Hawaii for 8 months. And the reason why I have to thank my sister is because she was a traveling OT, and they called her because she had been doing it for a long time and said, "Isn't your sister a dietitian? Do you think she'd move to Hawaii for a little bit?" And my sister was like, "This is her phone number. You can call her immediately. She will go." And so they called me and I moved within 10 days. Yeah. I covered maternity leave, an extra long maternity leave on the island of Kauai at Wilcox Memorial Hospital. It was the best time of my life. I surfed, I learned how to surf. But I think there's something to be said here about the power of yes, because I literally left my now husband. I was like, I'm moving to Hawaii for a little bit. I left my family. I didn't know anyone there. Even though I'm Filipino and everyone thought I was from there, I was born and raised in Michigan. So I went and I did it, and it was scary and it was awesome and it was wonderful. So it is very powerful to be scared and be nervous and still say yes.
A bit of a weather difference too.
Yes. And
That
that
must
was
have been
awesome.
nice.
Every time you're not at work, you felt like you were on vacation. I was like, what is happening?
It's so unrealistically beautiful
Yes,
all the time.
100 million %.
In the rain, it's pretty. How is that possible?
I know. Or you could drive, if you didn't want rain, you could literally drive to like another part of the island and be in sun. It's wild.
So wild.
So do it. I know there's not really a lot of traveling dietitian positions that I don't really see or hear about them that often, but if that's something that you're interested in, look for different agencies that do, if they do traveling nursing or traveling OT or traveling PT, there's potential for there to be traveling dietitian openings as well.
Awesome. So what do you think sets you apart from other dietitians?
Oh, this question, Emily. So I say this all the time. I say this to myself to remind myself, and I say this to my kids and anyone who will listen, that being you is your superpower. So be yourself. You don't have to be anyone else. And I will openly admit this. I think earlier on when I was a dietitian, I felt like whoever I was talking to and like having a session with, whether it be outpatient or in the hospital when I worked in different places, I would not be me. Do you know what I mean? But like kind of be more like them. And as you start, and that just comes, I think, kind of with time and as you start to get to know how you are as a dietitian more. So being you is your superpower. So I think that is one of the things that I get to bring to the table. What else? I think like being Filipino American, for like other Filipinos that live here or are trying to eat healthier based on their way of life, sets me apart a little bit to be able to help that population. And I will say this, I think everyone has their own why for why they became a dietitian. And this sounds like a sad story, and it kind of is, but my dad was a doctor and he died when I was 13. And so my whole life I was told that I should be a doctor. When I went to college at Michigan State, I took my first nutrition class and I was like, I love this. I want to help people like be healthy for the long haul before they get sick, or even if they do have a chronic condition, to help them so that no one loses someone they love. And that has been like a passion and driving force in me to be a helper, and knowing where that North Star is for you becomes really important.
Definitely. I think that's a great takeaway. And I guess my last question will be, what have been some of your greatest accomplishments over your dietetic career?
So the power of yes and like diving in someone came to me with the opportunity to start working in social media and being a spokesperson for the company. And I was really tentative, and the fear of public speaking becomes very real. But I said yes, and I did it, and I dove in, and I learned, and I became better for it. And I learned so much about those moments, those public speaking moments, and being on media. So I would say I'm proud of myself for doing that. And now I get to be a national spokesperson for the Academy. And I feel like that's a really big honor. Again, representation matters. So being an Asian American and doing that it makes me proud to say I have done that, and other kids maybe that look like me can reflect and be like, wow, I could maybe do that too. I could be a dietitian. I can help people. I could talk about it on the radio or on TV or on a podcast.
Great. Well, you've given us so much great information today. Thank you for taking time out to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.